Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Brains and Banter. My name is Sita Adeyemi, and today I have with me
Precious.
so Precious is a guest on the show, and we're here today to talk about how we lived on the budget through school, right?
Yeah.
You graduated already, yes?
Yeah.
From what university?
Madonna University.
Madonna University.
Yeah.
Okay. Madonna University, is it just in Abuja or
No, it's River State, that's the main campus.
River State? Okay.
We have that for the science campus. Then we have in Anambra for social sciences
Okay.
and law. Then we have in Enugu, that's for engineering.
Okay.
So there are basically
Three
three
campuses
campuses.
around Nigeria. Okay. Fantastic. What did you study?
I studied pharmacy.
Pharmacy. Oh. I think there's a thing about people who study pharmacy now. There's a new regulation about calling them doctors.
Yeah, okay, that's the FAMD, they call it FAMD program.
Okay.
So when you finish 6 years, so 5 years for the theoretical course and
1 year.
practical, then 1 year clinical training.
Okay.
That's 6 years. But they just try to implement it in all the schools in Nigeria. But I graduated with a BFAM, which is 5 years.
Oh,
So
the
it's just
additional 1
additional
year
is just
is
your
going into
introduction, your clinical training and the hospital training basically. So they call them doctor of pharmacy. Basically, we're under the same regulation as both. And we're inducted the same way. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So back to the topic of the day. Just want to dive a bit deep into like how school life was for you and how you manage your finances. Mostly on a budget because all students maybe not these days anymore, but traditionally students are usually like on a budget. So I'll start. I graduated from the University of Illinois a couple of years ago, and my experience is, I'm sure, going to be very diverse from what people have these days. But maybe we can start from you. How did you do like the month and month expenses?
Okay. Like I said, I graduated from private university.
Yeah.
So it was more like in a Catholic school to start
Okay,
with.
okay.
So,
Are you Catholic?
no, I'm not Catholic.
Oh,
I'm Pentecostal.
okay.
So in a Catholic school, it's a religious religion.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I for one, I'm an introvert as a person.
So you're on the show.
Yeah,
Not
so,
showing.
yeah, of course, yeah. So for the spending and budget and how I actualize that, actually, okay, my parents when they send me money, I try to do a ration of it.
I'm sorry. I need to cry. I need to cry. So when you say when they send you money, how much do they send you?
Let's say per month,
Mhm.
it's not fixed.
Okay.
Okay, my year 1, 2, 3, so this by a month, let's say 100,000.
100,000. So we have to actually come back to the show because the camera fell. When everybody heard 100,000, we all started laughing because but yeah, let's come back to you. So 100,000 in a month.
Yeah.
So how do you talking about like budgeting and what?
Okay, yeah. So when they send the money, they just like they don't tell you use for textbooks, feeding. So you really want to now say, okay, so specific, I'm going to feeding or my tuition, and that's then buying of textbook and course materials.
Okay.
So I try to do that's 30, 40, 30
ratio.
Okay. Yeah. So the first 30%, I ration it for my feeding, and then that's just basically feeding.
Okay.
Because
and how do you feed? You buy food every day, or do you cook?
I combine both. I buy, I also cook too. Because when you do the calculation, buying and cooking as a student, there's no much difference. Because of the professional course, there's not actually time to cook every time.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the load of the coursework. So for the other 40%, it's basically loaded into my course materials, handout, textbooks.
Were there a lot of handouts?
Yeah, a lecturer could have about 10 handouts for different course modules.
Oh.
So the same course, but 10 different handouts.
I think that's even the problem that kids has come to solve because now students don't need to buy handouts anymore. They can just go on the app that says this material.
True. But again, some lecturers are not adapting to current technology change. So so we have to just get the handouts. Then they give the course rep, that's the class rep, the main copy. So you now doing mass production of it. So now pay and buy it. So then we also I also buy textbooks too. and a few other things.
Okay.
So the other last 30% can be any miscellaneous
Miscellaneous things that come up. Do you
expenses.
use to remove tithes?
Yeah, I tithe in my home church.
Okay.
So just offerings and
Okay.
giving.
Okay.
Then as humans, we can also help people too. So my friend can come and say,
I need
please,
to. Yeah.
borrow. I hardly borrow money because borrowing, from my experience, spoils relationship. When it's time to pay back, people try
There'll be
to
that
try to whip
that
settlement down.
tension.
It's not just 5,000. But when you're coming, it was not just 5,000.
We was like,
So we just that's how it
yeah.
went.
Bro, your experience is fully different from mine.
But
I must tell you.
I actually cultivated the habit of saving.
Okay. So out of the so which of the buckets did you save from?
I saved from the other 30%.
That last 30%.
The last 30%. Because you have to think ahead. Because sometimes you can't. I also try to also do some other things to engage in teaching tutorial classes and extra.
So I'm going to come back to that as well. Like, did you also make extra money while in school? So I'll come back to that. But I also wanted to share my own experience. Because when I was in school, well, maybe it was also a different time. More than 10 years ago now. But the expense was fully different. So in place of your 100,000, my parents sent me 2.5 in a month.
Wow. Considering the economic nature of Nigeria at that time.
Well,
what year was that? Can you just throw some light?
This is 2010.
Wow.
Right. So
more than a decade.
More than a decade ago. God, I'm old. Yeah. So it was more or less. I couldn't live lavishly. I couldn't divide it like you divided your into buckets. So I had a very strict rule. Every day, I only could spend 120 naira.
Wow.
And so I had the same thing every day. In the morning, we used to call it burger in my school, but it's literally bread and akara. Okay. So bread, they put the akara inside. Of course, I didn't like to also cook because cooking takes a lot of time.
True.
It has to be 55 naira. Maybe another example for you. Bread 30 naira, akara 20 naira, and one pure water.
Wow, now
almost every morning. Then in the afternoon, so that's for 5 naira in the morning. Yeah. In the afternoon, 10 naira just to buy sugar and Ghana for 5 naira. I already have carried.
Was it that bad?
Well, let's not talk about how bad it was. Then in the night, I'll go and eat fufu. So we had like Boca 10. That was my best Boca. Fufu, 3 fufu, 2 meats, and one pure water. Also 55 naira. So every day, 120. If I go beyond that 120, that means one day down in the month, I'm going to suffer for it. But there's this week. You know that first week when they send you money? We used to call it Oseguraga in Yoruba. But in English, it means the proud week. Where like just so much money. Spending anyhow. But that first week, you can buy one extra meat. Yeah. You don't have to drink every in the afternoon. But then it means that by the end of the month, I'll pay for it. Because then there'll be no more money to eat food. So I'll probably go and meet my friend. Let's cook together. I have Maggie. Salt. And that was how many students,
But you stayed in school hostel or?
Yeah, I stayed in the hostel almost throughout. Yes, I stayed in the hostel. I think one of the other episodes, some guests that we had also shared like their also experiences. Mine was crazy because in a room of 6 you can have like 30 people. In the night when I come back from night class, I'm trying to enter my hostel. I'll be stepping on people's heads.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like you wake up in the morning and you don't like. When did I have these roommates? Because you don't even know the guy. Yeah. But it's the friend of the friend of the friend.
How did you cope with keeping your things safe?
Yeah. I think because I've always been like a very organized person. So from my day one, my bag had like locks. I'll lock. When I finish cooking my pots, I'll wash it instantly, put it back in my bag, lock it, lock my wardrobe. So yeah, that was how I was able to say that. But let's come back to what you said earlier about like so managing budgets, but also earning extra money. Extra money.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So how do you do that?
Yeah. So basically, in a class we were about let's say we're about 80 in the class.
Sorry, what population of McDonald now? What percentage?
The entire students.
Yeah, the entire.
Let's say 6,000 approximately. Yeah. Because of the ASU strike and uncertainty about graduating public school. So we had a lot of so even when they increase the school fees, we still had a lot of intake too. Right. Yeah. So the school fees now for pharmacy is about 2.5 million. Okay. Yeah, when I was there it was 900,000. The times have changed. Yeah, times have changed. So that is so about the extra kind of so let me start from in school. You have to be very careful, especially in the school, because of the nature of the school. We don't sell things to students.
Oh, so like a student cannot sell
things to you. Yeah. So if you are caught, you go for it because we have a student handbook. And all the rules are stipulated in there with their punishments and all of that. So you have to be very careful. Even when you are doing classes to help your fellow students to catch up, maybe they didn't understand or get what the lecturer taught in class. Yeah, you have to be very careful too because they don't mix boys and girls too much. So it was that. So I had to. A lot of rules were too much because the Catholic school and to cope, you have to be very careful and all that. So for the lecture, so on weekends, that was like Saturdays. Okay. So it was basically that time. It was from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay. So I was very good at pharmacology. Okay. And pharmaceutical calculations. Okay. So actually do classes, tutorials and that. So calculation was a big part in pharmacy school. Yeah. So you have
I never thought that pharmacy students.
Yeah, because of you have to calculate some doses of drugs and how and a lot of practical. So you have to students indicated interest. So about 15 of them. But I didn't want crowd so that it's not like the normal regular classes. Yeah. So the idea is just to
so you can choose.
Yeah, contact with few persons and ask variety of questions. So with that, I didn't have a fixed amount. So I just said that you can't go below this actually. Okay. So that time I was charging per person about 5,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So at the point I was thinking it was too small, so but I have to consider too. You get.
Wow.
So it was
okay. So like in a month, estimate how much do you make extra?
So extra, let's say extra 80 to 100K is
interesting. Okay, so again, it's like they're just opposites, right? You have contrasting experiences. Because when I was in school, I also love to teach tutorial. So I'll teach people in my church, like my juniors in church. I'll teach people in my class, but I was also like maybe the most brilliant student in class. But it was all for free. But sometimes when students in my class want like specialized teaching, they just come and meet me. They take me to a special class and say, please just teach me this topic. Then they might just give me 200 or 500. Back then. So it wasn't like I could count on the savings or the money coming from teaching tutorials. So this is one of the things.
Well,
I wanted to also add like side also was not a thing like a lot of back then.
There was no time for that or
there was time, but I think back then people just wanted to academics. Yeah. Side also was for after you graduate. That was the mindset. But I think there's been a mindset that you can hardly find a student who doesn't have something they're doing on the side.
Business and all. Yeah. So you said something of doing it for free. I don't know. Then human beings generally anything that we get for free,
they take it for granted.
To abuse it. So I have to place a value on my knowledge.
Yeah.
So you can't just get it like that because although I was considerate, so that was that.
That's very considerate.
Because the classes were actually it was so simple because lecturers sometimes they come to class
they just dump
down and explain finishing a course in just one day, one handout of about 100 pages. They even give us soft copies too.
Oh, okay.
So to brush up and you can't focus on we're doing about minimum 12 courses in a semester. Yeah, so different a course can have like 5 lecturers.
So there was just a lot of
it's a lot. Pharmacy school is a lot. So that's why there's that debate that pharmacy and medicine, which sometimes. Well, I don't engage in stuff because everybody with their own.
Facing their own.
Yes. So the pass mark was generally 50, but there were 2 courses that were 60%.
Okay.
One 200 level We call it dispensing practical.
Okay.
One. Then 400 level, we do ethics and jurisprudence. So you must get a B minimum. If you get 59, you are coming back for the course.
Wow.
Because it's a council course.
Oh, so you're wow. So we're taking a course. You don't need to fail it. You don't need to get it.
You don't need to, yeah.
59.
59 is fail, is F. So the big courses is either you get it's called A, B, or F. So there's no C,
there's no C,
D, or E. Yeah, so A, B, or F. So that.
Okay, so let's come back to topic. So what advice would you have for like students of nowadays and how like they can manage their finances and stuff?
Okay. Yeah. For students of nowadays, I feel you should, no matter how much you think you are getting from your parents or how much you think you have, you should be cautious in your spending. Very important. And even if you have a lot, you should also note a life lived in moderation is always the best. Yeah. So
and that's a quotable quote. The
yeah.
life lived in moderation is always the best. I need to write that down.
So you have to also note your expenses too. You don't just spend and considering the economy now is actually not it's biting and it's really terrible. So as opposed to when 3-4 years back we had it easy somehow. But also, there are a lot of drivers of changes now. Technology has come in, as you mentioned, the right podcast, AIs are also there too. So there are a lot of gadgets students are buying now just to do a lot of things. I know starting a business as a student is not so easy, so you have to save.
Yeah.
Especially you are not from a good income anymore. So those are the things that I actually nice.
Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So that'll be it for the podcast today. But I mean, in the comments, tell us how you manage your expenses. Let's know how you manage your finances. We might have one or two more tips for you in the comments. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.